Oh, I went down a testicular rabbit hole.
Oh, and that's our opening line.
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
Make yourself a grasshopper,
and enjoy the ride.
Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Fantastic, because we just watched Season 3, Episode 19, The Wheaton Reoccurrence.
Hell yeah.
For any new listeners out there, I'm Rob. This is my co-host, Ryan. We are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. As a reminder, this is Ryan's first time watching, so we do our best to do no spoilers. And Ryan has also been told he's very similar to Sheldon, so we keep a point tally of how close Ryan is to Sheldon.
And right now that point tally is at 92 points, not like Sheldon, 94 like Sheldon. So a little bit ahead being like Sheldon.
But it's still been very neck and neck the entire series.
Yeah, it's been close. I think each season has ended up with me being like Sheldon, but is that true? But it's been like within a point or two almost the whole time.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there was a time where I was not like Sheldon. I was up by like 5 points and then quickly right back.
Well, a little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. Don't forget to email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. Leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. And I think that's all I had in terms of housekeeping, unless you had anything for us.
I don't think so. No new emails this week. We check. But yeah, if you have any emails, send them our way and we'll read them.
All right. Let's just dive in then.
Okie dokie.
It is Season 3, Episode 19, The Wheaton Reoccurrence. Aired April 12th, 2010. Written by Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and teleplay by David Ghosh. Directed by Mark Sandrowski. And should we just do a little bit of overall thoughts?
Sure. I liked it. You know, it's kind of a, I'm not going to say cliche issue with the episode, but it's kind of, it happens all the time. It's about, I don't want to ruin it, but very summary, the L word gets dropped, love, and, they've been dating for a long time. So it's bound to happen. In fact, I'm kind of surprised it hadn't happened yet. And I thought they're handling it well. And, the rest of the episode, the secondary conflicts and storylines are fantastic. So I was happy with that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I really like watching it. I like the storyline, but it was kind of frustrating to watch at the same time because Leonard is a giant douche, as Howard put it. It's like he's very easily annoyed. He's very pushy the entire time. Because like when it comes down to it, he shouldn't really dictate how another person feels. And honestly, by the end of the episode, I was happy that Penny broke up with him. I was like, good for you. Like, he's actually being kind of an asshole, like the entire episode.
I don't know. I think to some extent he was definitely being pushy, and that's not fair. At the same time,
he wasn't letting it go. He said he would let it go, but then he doesn't let it go. And then it's like he's basically pushing her buttons.
Let it go, right? Where he's trying to let it go, but then something happens. We'll get to that, but it goes above his head. But I thought at the end he was actually living up to it. But I can see that's a painful situation, and it's like it's scary too, because if the other person's like, I don't know if I feel like I'm in love with you. We're just going to have to wait. And it comes up to that. Will Wheaton says that he was in this situation for 2 years. That are you just being dangled around? Is it going anywhere? Like it's one thing that you're not hearing it back, but at the same time, you're on the precipice of a relationship failing and ending, and that's scary. That's terrifying. So, in that regard, it's a bad situation. I don't think he was right in what he does, but at the same time, I feel for him nonetheless.
Yeah, I do feel for him because he does truly, genuinely love her, but he just didn't really know how to approach it. You're right. He did kind of get better at it, and he did like own up to his mistake.
Yeah.
And you're right. It was Wheaton that got in her head.
It's Wheaton.
I will say again, I didn't know Will Wheaton very well when I was watching this, and yep, I fucking hated him for a long time. It's like, we're done.
He plays the role so well too. I appreciate him being in it as the villain. I think we talked too about the Guild, right, where he's the bad guy in that too, kind of.
Yeah,
and he does such a good job. You love to hate him.
But on your point that they've been together for a while, it's still, if every season is about a year, because I feel like most TV shows kind of follow that timeline where it's like the air date is usually the date that they're on, usually. Yeah. So technically it's all within a season. They got together at the beginning of this season, and now the season's not even over. So technically they've been together for under a year.
So maybe like what you think, 8 months, 9 months?
Yeah. So I mean that's kind of early for the L word. Maybe, I mean, to each their own. I mean, you feel what you feel, but to have that expectation from another person is a little unreasonable.
I think I've dropped the album in my serious relationships. Whenever I've said it, it's been under a year. I think that's probably and I haven't said it, to many people, but I'm thinking of it hasn't been like How I Met Your Mother where he drops it on the first date like every freaking time. But I'd probably say around like the 6 to 8 month mark is where I'm usually comfortable saying it. After that, I'm kind of like, maybe something's wrong if I'm not saying it.
Okay.
But everybody's different. So when I was a kid, I used to think that like people who didn't get married were just weird or something was wrong with their relationship. But like as I've grown up, I understand numerous reasons why people wouldn't do that, and why, if you're not in love with somebody, why you're still in a relationship, and that you can still have a special bond with somebody, right? I don't know. There's things that I'm not going to be a judge of. So for what that is.
Love is love. I actually have a family member that actually has been in a long-term relationship. They're basically together. They're basically married without being married. But it's funny because like she knows herself very well, and she's independent. She doesn't want to live with anyone. She doesn't want a ring. She doesn't want any of that stuff. So she forced her boyfriend to like move in the same apartment complex. So like they've been together for like, God, decades, I'm sure. And like, but they just live, like they hang out together all the time, but at the end of the day, they just go their separate ways.
There's something to be said about that. Yeah. You can decorate your house how you want. You can stay up as late as you want, watch what you want. When you're not together, if you snore, you don't have to worry about that waking the other person up.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure they sleep together at least sometimes. But still, if you don't want to deal with it, you're just like, I'm
not going to ask.
Yeah,
All right. Well, let's just dive into the episode now. More on all this later. All right. Opening scene. Leonard and Penny are in bed, and Leonard is out of breath. They just did it. And Leonard says that if this is what his PE teacher told him he was training for, he would have tried a lot harder. And then Penny busts out a Yoda quote. She says, "Do or do not. There is no try." And Leonard is blown away. He snagged a beautiful woman that could quote Star Wars. And then she corrects him and says she just quoted The Empire Strikes Back.
That's
even better.
She had it.
And then he drops the L word. And she's very freaked out. And she just says, "Thank you."
Thank you.
She rolls over and goes to sleep, and her eyes are just wide. Like, oh my God, what just happened? Well, now we have the theme, and now we jump to the next scene, and they're at the apartment. The guys are watching TV, and Leonard enters, and Howard asks him his thoughts on giant ants. Sheldon says impossible, but he thinks it's not only possible, but cooler than riding the Batmobile, which is false. I disagree.
Yeah, I think so too. In this this piggybacks off, was it last week's last episode where they're talking about giant insect movies, and we did an IQ point on giant insect movies. So they have a fetish with giant insects apparently. But I think the Batmobile, thing's got like a jet engine in it, so that's gonna be fun. Where I feel like ants will try to eat you if you're on their back.
There's no loyalty in an ant.
No loyalty. I get no respect.
Well, Sheldon says that he is ignoring the square cube law. The giant ant would be crushed under the weight of its own exoskeleton. And for the record, the appropriate ranking of cool modes of transportation is jetpack, hoverboard, transporter, Batmobile, then giant ant. Which I kind of agree with.
Into square cube law at all?
I did.
Nice.
You want to take it?
I have one coming up. How about you take this one?
Sounds good. So I looked into what I wanted an understanding of what the square cube law is and what animals are capable of being giant. So I found this on Easton Academy, Live Science, and I had to hop on YouTube because I did not understand anything I read.
I have to admit, I looked at some picture and images, diagrams to explain it to me, and eventually it's like, oh, I see, and it colored coordinated images.
Well, the square cube law is a fundamental principle in physics and biology that explores the relationships between the size and volume of objects. This law, often applied to biological organisms and structures, illuminates the consequences of change in scale. It was first described in 1638 by Galileo. As things get larger, the surface and volume do not grow proportionally. The volume will grow at a much faster rate than the surface. Its volume by a power of 3, and its surface by a power of 2. And things don't magically get stronger as they grow in size, so the larger the object gets, it keeps its relative strength. So as an ant gets larger, it gets to a point where it can't support its own weight. The legs would need to grow disproportionately thick in order to stand up. So that's kind of what I found.
Need more reinforcement too, because the exoskeleton,
the organs are going to
collapse on it themselves, right?
Yeah. So this is why humans are one of those organisms that can't, most mammals essentially cannot grow larger. So that's why if you look this up, you're going to actually find a lot of videos on Marvel's Ant-Man, because Ant-Man can grow big and small as he turns into Giant Man, but then he shouldn't be able to do that because of the square cube law.
Oh yeah. I didn't see that. I did see one comic where somebody's like, oh no, a giant scorpion's attacking us. Thank you, square cube law. And the scorpion just collapses on itself and starts bleeding out.
Oh, God.
I'm like, I get it.
Well, I tried to look into what animals can be made larger if they were to just magically, get bigger. And
Magic Ray.
It's only aquatic animals, because the buoyancy of water negates the effects of gravity. So no matter how big you get, you're kind of just floating in water. So you're not really confined into this rule. So we can have giant sharks. We can have giant, probably crabs, as long as they don't go on land.
Octopi?
Yeah. Giant squid, giant octopus.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Giant squid's an octopus. Yeah. Yeah, I was reading that this has to do with not just living creatures. I mean, buildings too, right? It's hard to make skyscrapers because the surface area it only looks a little bit bigger, but it gets heavier and heavier, even if it's just small increments of increasing the size, or from the outside it looks like. I'd say that I also found out that maybe everybody knew this. I didn't. It was Galileo who created this theory or described it in 1638 in his work Two New Sciences. So apparently that's something Galileo was known for. I'm like, oh, that's what Queen was singing about all that time. So Galileo.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's crazy how much they discovered at such an early time in our history.
Mm-hmm. It's true, but they didn't have social media, so what else were they going to do? And they didn't have a podcast.
I was actually just talking to my wife about this. We were kind of just talking about something, and I was like, God, imagine if we didn't have TV. Imagine how much we would get done. Imagine what other hobbies we would have without TV. Too bad we have TV. Click.
What's that? I think it's in a movie called Waking Life, and it's a movie. It's a cartoon, like animated on top of live action, and it's basically a guy going around having philosophical conversations with people. And one of them, I'm pretty sure it's from that guy's talking about how people think like the most universal human emotion is fear or something, and then he goes on about how people have existed for so long. There are more people now than ever before, and there's like just nothing getting done. And it like he puts together the logic a lot better than I can think of right now. But he goes, it leads me to believe that the most common human characteristic is not fear, but laziness. We're all lazy. I'm like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Every now and then you get somebody who's smart and energetic or motivated, and they do something, but for the rest of us, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. No matter how like motivated I get and how much I get done, I love just watching TV.
Right? I love napping. I love to nap. So,
that's one thing I don't like is napping.
Oh man, I don't.
I always wake up more tired. I've tried every increment where they're like, "Oh, you have to sleep in." You have to worry about the REM sleep cycle. So every hour and a half, you need to do hour and a half. Or sometimes you try a power nap. Sometimes you do the 10-minute, the 15-minute. Like I tried every increment, and every time I wake up more tired. And
try napping for 8 to 12 hours.
You might be onto something.
Some people say that's just a full night's sleep, but if you do it at 1 in the afternoon, wake up and then go to sleep, it's amazing. Oh man. I was going to add one more thing about this that on Wikipedia was talking about this, but it also explains why smaller creatures stay cooler, because they don't have as much body volume to keep cool. And so elephants have a harder time keeping cooler in hot suns, as opposed to mice, because mice just don't have the volume to worry about dissipation of heat. I'm like, so that's a little bit.
That makes sense, because I remember I did this farm tour one time, and one of the pop quizzes that the guy asked us was like, what's the ideal temperature of a cow? Do you know what the ideal temperature of, like, for outside, like if they're outside, what's their ideal temperature?
I was gonna say 138 when I'm making a steak. What is it?
It's like 40 or something like that. 40 degrees.
Wow.
Like, yeah, that's why we during the wintertime, a lot of them don't really have to worry about like being put inside and everything, because they love the cold temperature.
Yeah.
And it kind of explains it, because they're so large.
That's true. I didn't think about that. And like with horses, I guess horses are more slender creatures, but you put like some blankets on them. But cows, I never see the blankets on them, and they just kind of mosey around and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good point. 40 degrees, 138.
Yeah. Huge deviation of Big Bang Theory, so we'll get back on track right now. Unless you had something else on Square Cube Law.
Nope, I'm good.
Well, Leonard is obviously pissy. Well, we know, but they don't know. And he just kind of leaves. And Sheldon thinks it's his time of the month. And Sheldon goes on to say, well, not literally, but as far back as the 17th century, scientists observed a 33-day fluctuation in men's hormone levels. And Raj says, well, that's interesting. That might explain my weepy days in the middle of the month. And then he gestures over to Howard. You know what I'm talking about.
And Howard kind of looks like he's gonna cry.
like you're not supposed to tell anybody that.
My weepy days. So
well, did you do men's cycles?
My next one. And I'm curious what you got, because my shit was all over the place, and I don't know if I wasn't researching it correct. Like I don't know, but I can tell you what I got and see what you got. But first of all, I did not find that it dates back as far as the 17th century. I found that most places that I was looking, and where was it? Wikipedia was just like the basically grounding where I started with this, but it suggested, in most places I found, suggested that it is a pseudoscience. Basically, this cycles like this falls into what's called biorhythms, and they are considered pseudosciences, not really backed up with a lot of scientific evidence, but a lot of people do still study them and practice them. But I got that it was really developed by Wilhelm Fliess in the 19th century. And this gets weird because, again, that 19th century is not the 17th century, like Sheldon says. And although it says that it's a pseudoscience, I found a claim that said by Terrence Hines, a professor of psychology in New York, claimed that out of 134 biorhythm studies, they found that the theory is just not valid. And this was 1998. However, I did find some studies and suggestions that this disputed this. So my understanding, this is an ongoing thing. But I found this other study from the National Library of Medicine in an article titled "The Effect of Biological Rhythms on Personality Traits on the Incidence of Unsafe Behaviors Among Bus Drivers in Shiraz, Iran," in January 2018. And this is by several writers: Fatim Kamari, Ganavati, Mehdi Janhagari, Mariam Khalifa, Siri Kishavarizi, and Mahani's Shakarian. And I do apologize for not being able to pronounce those. But the study concluded that apparently in this, after studying several bus drivers, that basically there's something called critical days, where critical days are where humans in these cycles are prone to making errors. And it broke it down into 3 different biorhythm cycles: physical, emotional, intellectual. Physical is every 23 days, emotional is every 28, and the intellectual one is the one that's every 33 days. And on critical days are, like, I guess, the emotional ones, where we make errors and get angry and do unsafe stuff. But it suggested that people do make more errors on those days, and it suggested that bus drivers on those days should probably select low-risk traffic routes to help prevent accidents and danger. However, although this could potentially explain like why unsafe behaviors and occupational accidents occur, or how to try to prevent them, there were some issues. Again, so many studies say that this is incorrect and probably just random. But they claimed that the biorhythm theory was introduced in 1890 by German physicians Lottmann and Garrett, where apparently, that goes against the Wikipedia source and all other sources that say that it was developed by Wilhelm Fliess in the 19th century. So that was kind of weird. But I did find Lottmann and Garrett and other sources that were saying that they helped popularize the theory in 1980. But this source was saying that they introduced it in 1890. So I was getting kind of mixed information, and I'm not exactly sure what Sheldon was going on. I couldn't find anything dating back to the 17th century, but it was kind of mixed. And I would say the consensus is that it is a pseudoscience, not fully backed up, and probably shouldn't be believed, but people have enjoyed talking about it for a long time. So what did you find?
Well, I didn't look at the history of it all, but I
Oh,
just looked at the general question of do men have cycles?
yeah.
Do males have cycles like females have cycles, essentially?
And that might be something too. If I was going with the biorhythm cycle, maybe male cycles is something different, and biorhythm is just like an updated or different approach to the. I don't know. Maybe I was just off
Yeah.
on a wormhole of knowledge and it is garbage.
Well, you did. I feel like you did fill in some blanks on what I found because you did mention that they found that males have cycles differently. Like they have different cycles for different things, whether it's physical or if it's intellectual or something like that.
Or
So that kind of
emotional.
explains, yeah. So that kind of explains something that I found.
Oh,
So I found on Popular Science, My Hormonology, and Good Therapy. Men apparently have hormonal cycles. But as Sheldon said, it's every 33 days. It's not every 33 days. Um, Men go through a different cycle, or depending on the man, they go through a cycle daily, weekly, monthly, and seasonally. However, these cycles are still very unpredictable and dependent on the individual. So they haven't really found a consistent cycle that fits all men.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's weird. Every time I take steroids, I get angry.
Well,
That's a cycle.
here's something on testosterone.
Oh.
On the daily, men usually start the day with peak testosterone, since we actually accumulate more and more as we sleep. Our levels of testosterone start to dwindle throughout the day, and by night, we don't have much at all. For a monthly cycle, studies have shown that men do illustrate a pattern of rises and falls of testosterone throughout the month. Although, unlike the female cycle, it's unpredictable and usually completely individualized.
Oh.
And the last thing, the seasonal cycle, a Norwegian study in 2003 found that men's testosterone levels bottom out in the summer and peak in the fall. A Danish study found something similar, however, the seasons varied. They might have to do with the sun exposure, summer workouts, or winter weight gain. But studies done in sunny San Diego and snowy Boston failed to replicate the Scandinavian findings.
Hmm.
In a 2012 review, urologists at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston concluded that some evidence exists to support the notion of seasonal cycles, but cautioned that there is more research is needed. So it would appear that men do have cycles. They're just not as consistent as women's. And unfortunately, there isn't enough research out there to clearly define what is going on with men. There are too many variables that can alter a male's testosterone. So watching an action movie, drinking caffeine or alcohol, or looking at someone they find sexually attractive. But we all do follow some sort of pattern throughout the day, week, month, and season. So technically, menstruation is sort of real, but it's sort of not at the same time. So it's like
We
you
don't
said, it is
understand
a
it
pseudoscience.
either.
Yeah, it's like we're finding inconsistencies. We don't understand it. So maybe it's not real. Maybe I think when it comes down to it, men are just very erratic,
Yeah.
which we kind of are.
You know, irony. We were the rational ones the whole time.
You know it's true.
Yeah. Huh.
Even every time I talk to I hear my mom whenever my mom is around Christina, my wife, she always talks about how moody I was as a child. And Christina just says, "Oh, things haven't changed." It's like, "Oh,
Aw.
I'm
Tried so hard.
menstruating. Don't blame me."
It's a weepy day. Why would you say that to me?
Why would you say that? Well, that's what I found on the male cycle.
So yeah, I'm curious if anybody has more information on this. Email us. Maybe we're looking up different things. Maybe
Yeah.
I think the fact that that 33-day cycle has come up a couple times. There's some interconnection, but like you said, there's some evidence to suggest it's true, some evidence to suggest it's not true, and a lot of disputing behind it. So maybe it's something that people are just still researching. I'm curious about it, but
Yeah. I'd like to understand more about myself.
yeah. Tell me about myself, somebody,
Yeah.
please.
So now we cut to the comic book store, and the guys are still on the topic of giant animals, and Howard suggests giant rabbits. And we learn that Raj doesn't like rabbits because they always look like they're about to say something, but they never do.
I love that line so much, and I don't know why, but I agree.
Well, it's funny that he really does have a vendetta against rabbits because the adhesive duck episode where he was like, I'm going to take all the lettuce in the world and eat it in front of them. I'm going to make them watch. It's like, wow, you really don't like rabbits.
I forgot about that. I will make them watch.
I will be their king.
Watch.
Well, Sheldon says that rabbits do have a respiratory system that would support great size. And on a side note, they are one of the few mammals whose scrotum is in front of the penis.
So this
And
is my viewpoint.
Yeah, well, I couldn't find that much information. I found information, but nothing that substantial. So I wasn't going to call it an IQ point, but seeing how you did it, I will call it an IQ point.
Oh, I went down a testicular rabbit hole.
Oh, and that's our opening line.
I looked at so many penises and testicles. Like there was a point where I'm like, I gotta get off this. Something's wrong. Oh man,
the FBI is going to have a field day.
Ryan, where are the rabbits? I don't have any.
Why is your search history full of rabbit penises?
I don't know. It was for the podcast. Sure, it was. That's what they all say. So what I found, I found some. This kind of went into more of an evolution thing of why is this happening or why does it happen? But it is true. Rabbits have testicles above their penis. And if you look at pictures, which I did, so you don't have to, I did the work for you. It kind of looked like a labia. Like the testicles are up and around and they're kind of like implanted into the body. And then the penis is like kind of positioned in between them, and they kind of wrap around a little bit. I'm not going to say it looks completely like a vagina, but when I looked at it, I saw like people comparing how to sex a bunny and how to tell the differences, and they look very similar. Right? It's a lot harder than a male and a female human being. So it was kind of interesting that that's true. But
for the record, when you say how to sex a rabbit, it means how to determine the sex.
Yeah,
right. Because that's what I thought. Because like as I was doing research, I was like, "Why do they keep saying that?" And then
it took me a little bit too. Yeah,
it took me so long. I was like, "Why do they keep saying how to sex a rabbit?"
It's like, I was like, I'm not going to click that link just yet.
And it means how to determine the sex of the animal, if it's male or female.
Exactly.
I just want to clear that up. With
if I'm going to jail, it's not for sexing the rabbit, okay? So I found out a couple things. The first, where I went to is liamdrew.net. And Liam Drew is apparently a biology and medicine journalist. And he writes a lot about medicine, biology, and seemed to know his stuff. And he put it together in a way that was very fascinating. He went into quite a bit more detail than I'm going to. So I do highly recommend if you're interested in rabbit penises. Although he doesn't say rabbits, he just talks about animal penises. But he does start off by saying marsupials are known for having their testicles above their penises. And he goes into that there are technically two main branches of animals, mammals with testicles. Mammals who have their testes inside them, kind of like kidneys, and mammals who have them outside them that hang down like primates, like human beings. But there is like this group in between that they haven't dropped down all the way, but they're like kind of in the abdomen and hanging there. But the ones with the testes inside, some of these include elephants, manatees, and duck-billed platypuses and other monotrims. So basically, the odd creatures like duck-billed platypuses that kind of lay eggs and stuff. But apparently, there's actually a lot of scientific conflict and theories on why things have happened like this. Apparently, everybody from the theories, everybody evolved from having inside testes, and it suggests that the testes went from inside, dropping down like humans, and then the ones who have them kind of implanted in their abdomen, basically they retracted and came back up. And mostly these are for water mammals. And they include, just not just water mammals, but some that have this happening, not just the marsupials, and bunnies, but hedgehogs, moles, rhinos, tapirs, hippos, dolphins, whales, some seals, some walruses, and some scaly anteaters. So apparently they're like on a different stage of evolution where the testicles drop down from inside their bodies to hanging down to going back up. And there again are some conflicts and theories of why this has happened, because a lot of people believe that testicles hanging down are for keeping sperm cool, and that it's a more optimized growing environment. There's some studies suggest that that's not true necessarily, but it would make sense that water mammals have them go back up because maybe in the water it's too cold. But some people also believe that maybe for animals that move around a lot and hop around a lot, so like marsupials, kangaroos that jump around, they need them like attached to them because they're hitting the ground or they're fighting too much. I don't know. They don't know, but there are several theories on this. And again, it suffice to say that sperm can be grown inside the body. So if the cooler climate works better, it doesn't explain why sperm also grows in like elephants who have their testicles inside their body. So it's kind of interesting that, there are mammals with several different testicle scrotum placements, and that technically they're originally inside, they drop down, and then some have them coming back up from who knows whatever reasons. So I felt that was an IQ point, and I again looked at more testicles and penises than I really planned to, but it was interesting to me. So what did you come up with? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I pretty much I was actually looking for that comprehensive list of like animals that did have just like a rabbit where the testicles are on top, but I just couldn't really find it. I found like marsupials, but then I was like, okay, let's look for a list of marsupials. Do all marsupials have it, or all I know is kangaroos have it?
Kangaroos. But this website made it sound like all marsupials. I don't know that for sure, but it definitely made it sound like they all do.
Well, that's all I had on scrotums and testicles. But I did, in my research on this, I did find some fun facts about rabbits.
Oh, yeah.
So I could share that a baby rabbit is called a kit or a kitten. Oh. A mother rabbit can have a litter of up to 14 kittens. A male rabbit is called a buck, and a female rabbit, just like deers, a male is a buck and a female is a doe. Same thing for rabbits. And what's the difference between a bunny and a rabbit? Nothing. They're the same animal. The term bunny is more colloquial and informal, whereas rabbit is scientific and formal.
What about hair?
Oh, I did not look at hair. Well, we'll find out now.
Yeah. And I want to add in there, it is scientific fact that rabbits are always about to say something, and they don't. Raj was right the whole time.
Oh, I guess a hare is just a different species.
Oh, it's a different species. But they look like
Yeah,
rabbits, right? I mean, it's not like...
yeah, they have larger ears.
And where are their testicles?
Probably the same spot.
Tell me, hair, where are your balls?
Yeah, hares live above ground and are physically larger than rabbits. Rabbits live in tunnels. And rabbits are in larger groups and hares are more solo.
I remember hearing that they were larger, and the ear thing sounds familiar, but I did not know that they lived above ground and rabbits lived in tunnels.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know that. I just learned that.
And that's why it's an IQ point, everybody.
Done.
Done.
All right, moving on.
I don't know if I can ever move on from those images, but let's try.
Scrotum is burned in your eyes.
Man.
2 eyes, 2 scrotes.
2 scrotes, 2 kidneys. Everything's in twos, I tell you.
Well, Leonard is still being pissy. And now we have a great back and forth about giant rat's ass. And they want to change the topic to why is Leonard being such a giant douche? Assuming giant douches are possible. And Sheldon says, well, of course they are. Well, Leonard is being one. Who would have thought that Sheldon could could make a great joke like that?
That's I felt it was a little out of character, but it was so well done, and I feel like every now and then Sheldon gets one that I liked it. I respected that coming out of Sheldon. So
great zinger.
Yeah, good zinger. He's being one right now.
Well, they narrow it down and they find out that there's an issue with Penny. And the guys get super annoying because they're trying to guess what he did wrong. Rather than just being a good friend, they try to figure it out. Howard says, "What'd you do, Romeo? Pour maple syrup all over your body and ask her if she was in the mood for a short stack?" Raj asks, "Did you think it would be funny to put on a pair of her panties and jump around?" And it wound up just creeping her out. Then they ask,
he says,
"Did you ask her to start?"
It happens, but Raj doesn't talk to girls, so when has it happened with him?
Yeah, unless he was just very drunk lately. But then again, he just discovered that.
It happens.
Maybe he saw it in a porno.
That too.
Yeah. They ask, "Did you ask her to start waxing? Did you start waxing? Did you end up spanking yourself?" And then enters Stuart, and he wants to touch base on their plans for bowling that night. And Sheldon has been working on his trash talk. You bowl like your mama. Unless, of course, she bowls well, in which case you bowl nothing like her. And then we jump over to the stairwell, and the guys are continuing to guess what Leonard did wrong. Howard asks, "Did you take a Benadryl and fall asleep while pleasuring her? Because you could die that way." And then Raj says, "Oh, that would be a good way to go." He's not wrong.
It's true.
And
I mean, it's like going out in your sleep, but you're also going to sleep with something you love. So it works.
Well, enter Penny, and they all feel the tension. And Sheldon reminds her of bowling, and they have a classic Penny and Sheldon interaction, which I actually didn't even write down. I think it was too long.
I didn't either. So
yeah. So now we cut to the next scene, and we're at the bowling alley. And Sheldon is going to town on his own bowling shoes with sanitizer. And Stuart
he knows where his feet have been. I like that line. I know where they've been.
And Stuart is there letting him know that albino Bob couldn't make it. So they have a sub. And reoccurring guest, Will Wheaton.
Wheaton!
And Sheldon says, well, if it isn't Will Wheaton, the Green Goblin to my Spider-Man, the Pope Paul the Fifth to my Galileo, the Internet Explorer to my Firefox. I like that last one.
Yeah.
And Sheldon created some websites hating on Will, and Will is just happy that he lives rent-free in his head.
Did you look into these websites at all?
No. Are they real?
So maybe I'm not going to call this an IQ point, but I was curious because usually with this stuff, they are real. I went to them, and they all seemed owned by Warner Brothers,
Hmm.
and so
Oh,
they
it's
were
probably like a
redirected.
landing page.
Yeah, so I'm thinking they were real at one time, and I found on Big Bang Theory fandom.net um it suggests that they were real. It never says clearly like these were real and taken offline at this date. But it says that uh yeah, according to them, they were real and they included the following: the rules to rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, Sheldon's dream to destroy Will Wheaton with the Green Lantern ring, why Will Wheaton could never be Batman, his wish to have made a fraternity called Will Wheaton Stinks. Um, in this list, it just says Facebook next. I don't know what that means. Maybe a link to a Facebook page. Um, why Will Wheaton shouldn't have his name spelled correctly. In an advertisement about the Wesley Crushers, a Teen Penny advertisement, and merchandise. So it seems like it probably would have been fun to see, but it's not online anymore. I'm curious if it was, or if anybody's seen it, or any images from Internet Archive that have it. But I couldn't find anything except that list on the fandom page.
It must have just bounced around based off where they were in the series.
Yeah.
For like it just redirected to like that page, and they must have updated it as the episode was going.
And it's been 14 years, so I can't expect them to keep it online the whole time.
Yeah.
But it kind of cool. I would have liked the shirt, Wesley Crusher shirt.
I'm sure you still can on like Etsy.
Right? I gotta look for one. Wesley Crushers.
Well, Sheldon tries to psych out Will, and he says that he was the co-captain of the East Texas Christian Youth Holy Roller Bowling League championship team. 7 to 12-year-old division. Oh, and also Penny's pretty good too. And I love Penny's response. She's like, and it's on. And favorite line. He says, "Oh, foolish Will Wheaton. It was never off." Well, now we have a time lapse, and Will gets a spare. Sheldon mocks him, and he gets a strike.
And I get a 1 point here because Sheldon goes over that long. All right, we are in 319. Long, what's it? Monologue about being one with the ball, and I could see me saying something stupid like that, where he goes, "Its holes are my holes." Like that specifically sounds like something that would come out of my mouth before realizing, like, oh shit, that doesn't. Oh man.
Can't take that one back. Well, Howard approaches Will as a super fan. And then he gets creepy and weird, and he asks if he's ever hooked up with Whoopi Goldberg.
Is that what that meant? Because he specifically said, he says, does he say ever hit that or ever hit back or something? Like I made a note.
Never hit that.
Ever hit that. Okay, I misunderstood, but I highlighted that saying, I don't know what, like, was he in a fight with Whoopi Goldberg or something? Like,
did you hit her back?
Yeah. Wesley's fighting for himself now.
Did you crush her, Wesley?
That makes a lot more sense now. Thank you.
Well, Raj is by himself and he drinks a beer and he's just chatting with himself and no one's around.
And I get one IQ point, or not IQ point, 1 point for being like Raj here. Like Raj, drinking and talking to myself.
Beer, the magic elixir that could turn this poor, shy Indian boy into the life of the party.
The life of the party.
And no one's around.
Oh.
And then we have Leonard being annoying AF. He just makes some dumb comments about her loving chili fries. That she can say that she loves that, but she can't say that she loves him. Well, sorry, Leonard, you're no chili cheese fries.
True. Although you could put them on yourself and say, you want a short stack or something? I don't know. I don't know if it works as well, but it's worth a try.
Do or do not. There is no try.
There is no try.
And Penny rightfully storms off. Yep, he just like doesn't get it. And then we're outside of Penny's apartment, and Sheldon knows Penny is in an emotional crisis and brings ice cream, which he learned from a Kathy comic. He breaks the news that they had to He breaks the news that they had to forfeit the match, and he cried himself to sleep. All while Leonard sang along to Alanis Morissette, another woman in the need of ice cream. Well, Sheldon has a bit of good news. He was able to schedule a rematch against Stewart's team that night. And he presses Penny to go talk to Leonard in the laundry room right now. So now we're in the laundry room, and Leonard does show a little bit of growth and shows he's self-aware of the situation, that he overreacted, but he's fine now and all is well. So they make up, and then just bam, Sheldon pops out. He's like, yeah, I was eavesdropping. There's a lot at stake here.
He owns up to it. He's like, yeah, I was.
Yeah. Like, whatever. So now we cut back to the bowling alley, and Sheldon pulls out the new shirts that they made, the Wesley Crushers. And I just love that they don't get it, or he doesn't get it. He's like, no, it's the Wesley Crushers.
They're like, aren't they like, it sounds like people who like Wesley, when you're like Wesley Crushers.
And then Will pops over and he's like, oh wow, they named their team after me. And he just has to show away. So then Stewart says, okay, so we're all clear on the bet and the stakes. And Sheldon says, yes, the losers will be publicly humiliated in a fashion to be chosen by the victor. And he says, FYI, I plan on having you publish a scientific paper expounding the discredited Velikovsky hypothesis. So I looked into that.
I did too. Let me know what you got. I'll see.
All right, I'll go.
Yeah.
I was wondering who this is and why he was discredited and everything. Like, why is this a diss, essentially? Sheldon is referring to Immanuel Velikovsky, an American-Russian psychoanalyst, writer, and catastrophist. His books use comparative mythology and ancient literary sources, including the Old Testament, to argue that the Earth suffered catastrophic close contacts with other planets, principally Venus and Mars, in ancient history. Basically, Velikovsky had some very ridiculous claims about how our world was formed without using science to back up his claim. For example, he noted in his book, Worlds in Collision, that all the oil in the Middle East came to Earth from a near collision with Venus, and then a giant comet. So in general, Velikovsky's theories have been ignored and vigorously rejected by the academic community. So it's basically just like this phony with like these weird theories with no evidence.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I got too. I was like, in the 50s, right? His book came out, Worlds in Collision. That was like the main point of what I was seeing. And he argues that apparently Jupiter, in this book, he argues Jupiter spit Venus out in the 15th century BC, and Venus passing by Earth caused all the like biblical plagues and disasters in mythology, giant floods and stuff, a locust, or possibly, I don't know. But I didn't read the book, but it makes it sound like he was trying to connect Venus passing by Earth with all the mythology and religions, catastrophes. But this book was also a bestseller. Even though scientists are like, he has no idea what he's talking about, and he's like completely shortchanging basic laws of physics. Like he doesn't understand them. And so after like a couple months, apparently the scientific community forced Macmillan, who's known for writing like scientific textbooks in general, to transfer the publishing off to Doubleday, which does not do textbooks. So that's kind of how the scientific community dealt with it, saying it's not going to come, if it's going to be published, it's not going to come from a reliable publisher. So,
yep.
but I'd
So
never
that
heard
would
of
be
that.
a burn.
Yeah, it would be a burn.
The scientific community will hate Stuart. What's your problem?
I'm sure Stuart cares about that.
Well, now we have a time lapse, and then Sheldon and Will are up at the same time, and Will psychs him out. He says it's customary for the player on the right-hand lane to bowl first. And then he just bowls anyways and says it's custom, not a rule. Then Will tells him to embrace the dark side, which I love because even Sheldon calls him out. It's like, that's not your franchise, dude.
That's right.
Well, I looked into bowling etiquette.
Oh.
Did you?
I did not.
I wanted to know if this is general etiquette, what he said that the bowler on the right, if they both come up, is it the bowler on the right that's customarily able or customarily supposed to bowl? And what else is there? So I found this on bowl.com. And not to be confused with rules, these are just a list of ways to be respectful on the lanes. In general, just be respectful to those around you. Pretty common rule. Well, not really rule, but etiquette. Also, no horseplay. This can be dangerous to you and the other bowlers. Change into your bowling shoes and keep your street shoes and other items out of the walkways. There can be a lot of traffic in the bowling center, and cluttering up walkways is a safety hazard. Now, when you're on the lanes, when a bowler gets on the approach and there's someone on either side of them, the general rule is that the first one on the approach bowls first. If there's any question as to who was up first, the bowler on the right should go, just like what Will said. A bowler already lined up in their stance and ready to bowl should not wait. They should just go. Standing on the approach is not the place to talk with friends. So just for clarification, the approach is basically where you're standing and throw the ball. Now, after the shot, once you've delivered the ball and it's rolling down the lane, there is a tendency to think that body language will help knock down more pins, which we've all been guilty of. This only works in theory. Remember to keep whatever moves you to your own lane. Staying in your own lane keeps others from getting distracted while they're playing. And know the score. If a bowler scores a strike on the first ball, there is no need for them to remain at the ball return. If the bowler doesn't score a strike on the first ball, they should step off the approach to allow other players to bowl. Be considerate towards teammates and other bowlers on adjacent lanes. Respect your teammates and adapt a general attitude of good sportsmanship to everyone in the bowling center. After all, everyone's there to have fun too. So like I said, not rules, just general etiquette. So if you want to pick up bowling, just be respectful and use common sense.
Or say, fuck them all and do whatever you want.
Yeah, fuck that shit. I'm going to bowl in your lane. I'm going to go into your approach.
And I'm going to dance while I do it.
Yeah. Guess I'm not bowling with you.
Yeah, it would be a mistake. I'm horrible.
Then we get an awkward interaction with Stuart and Penny. Stuart obviously still having a thing for Penny.
Poor Stuart.
Poor Stuart.
Which reminds
Then
me
Sheldon,
too, in The Office, I watched the episode where, what's the name, moves to Costa Rica.
Toby
touches Pam's leg. He pats her and he goes, I'm going to Costa Rica.
Bye. I'm working right now. Well, then Sheldon tries to coach Howard to be the ball, and he fluffs it. And then Sheldon blames him for not being the ball. And now Leonard being dumb again. Sheldon is up and they're all chanting his name, but he's not Sheldon, he's the ball. They start chanting the ball and he gets a strike and he thanks Jesus. As his mother would say.
Thank you, Jesus.
And now Will is talking to Penny and he gets in her head. He approaches her kindly, saying that he's glad that he patched up things in her relationship. And then he goes on to tell her a story of how he was strung along for 2 years by a girlfriend, and he wished that she would have just pulled the trigger and broke up, rather than stringing him along. And then he's up, and then Sheldon jumps over and is like, "What the fuck? Don't let him get into your head. It's not above him to play the dead Meemaw card also." And now Penny is up and starts getting a lot of pressure from Leonard that they really need. What was it, a strike? I don't even remember.
Yeah, they need a strike.
Right. Yeah. And then she explodes at him to back off because she's feeling the tension. She's feeling the pressure all around her. And then he just gets mopey and tries to mend it. But then she realizes that she just can't do it anymore and leaves.
See, I took this a little bit different. I saw him as not mopey, but saying like, I understand this is a difficult situation. What do I do? What can I do? Because this is stuff for me. It's stuff for you. And it's going to come up because it's out in the open now. So I felt like, he's kind of a mopey guy, so it's going to come out kind of mopey. But I thought he was earnestly trying there.
Yeah,
maybe.
You're right. You're right. Like, yeah. Whatever.
Well, if anybody has anything, if you watched it, let us know what you think. Do you think he was just being mopey? Do you think he was still pressuring her? Or do you think like he was being sincere and like he's just trying to give her space? But was he earnest when he said, "Just tell me what to do"? Or was he saying like, fine, tell me what to do, I'll just do it? Like, was he being like, not skeptical, but not sarcastic, but angry, frustrated? I don't know.
Well, I guess now that we're talking about it and you're kind of explaining this side of it all, I think that he did genuinely want to patch it up and he did want to make things right in that moment. But knowing Leonard, I don't know, I think he'd fuck it up anyways.
Maybe. And I think she was under a lot of pressure, and I think Wheaton got in her head. Although I can see Wheaton's story that it's would be nice to just like, if you don't think you're going to say it, pull the trigger and end it. Don't keep strewing it along saying, maybe I'll feel that way. Like, I feel like that's if you don't feel it and don't. I don't know. I feel like you either know it's going to happen or it's probably not going to happen, and stringing along it doesn't seem like it's for the best. And it's going to make things harder for everybody involved later on. Although at the same time, if Wheaton felt like it wasn't going to happen, why didn't he just end it? Like, I feel like relationship's a two-way street, and saying, at some point, you're not at the same point in this relationship, and I need to be with somebody who does know they love me. And the same thing with getting married too. If you want to get married and somebody's like, I just don't want to right now, like, break it up and find somebody who does want to get married. There are plenty of people in the world, and sitting around and like getting hurt, like, I don't know. It seems like easier said than done. I know. It just I can't say that it was completely Wheaton's girlfriend's fault, if she even existed. He might have been making this up. That
we actually don't even know if it was real or not.
Yeah,
I want to give him the benefit. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt that it was real.
But he also said his grandma died, his Mima died. He just makes shit up.
That's true. Wheaton.
Again, you love to hate him. He does it so well.
But I guess, like, going on what you were saying, it's like, it's hard to know because like Leonard is fully invested and he's in it, just like I'm sure Will was in it to win it with his girl, that like you don't really know. And then when the time came where Shader get off the pot, that's where things exploded.
And I do like Leonard's line saying, I was in this relationship 2 years before you. So he was pining after her. It's no surprise that he's going to say it and feel that way before, she didn't realize she even had feelings for him like a year ago. So they are going to be at different stages, and that has to be understood. It's just at what point do you realize maybe this relationship isn't moving forward?
Yeah.
But I think Wheaton made it all up. I think he was just...
Oh, let us know what you think, audience. I want to hear some votes. Do you think that Will made it up, or do you think it was a true story? Let us know
Wheaton,
what you think.
if you're out there, let us know.
Hashtag Will Wheaton. Tell us. Maybe you want to get interviewed by a couple good-looking guys.
Yeah. We're full of testosterone.
Yeah.
It's our 33-day cycle. We're doing good.
It's actually 9:50 p.m. on my side, so I'm actually running out of testosterone.
Oh, no.
I'll hashtag him in this.
Yeah. Wheaton. Let's you date her?
We get him on the podcast, and all we do is grill him on his 2-year relationship. Is she real?
Was she real?
What's her name? Eyes? Where was she born? What's her favorite food? Well, Sheldon chases after Penny and says that he'll get her some ice cream. And then that's when Leonard says it's over. And then Will consoles Sheldon. And Sheldon is very quick to accuse Will of doing this. Will says, do you really think that would break up a couple just to win a bowling match? And Sheldon, is a little bit more naive, as all of us are. He's like, no, I guess not. And then Will, being the asshole that he is, says, good, keep thinking that. So maybe he was lying. I don't know.
I get
maybe
it
was just a happy accident.
Sheldon, because I would love to get ice cream for friends who are feeling bad. I like that line he shouts out saying he'll get her ice cream, and I love ice cream. I love getting ice cream. I love getting people ice cream. So yeah, I'm like that's a Sheldon point.
All right, ice cream tangent. Not tangent. It's not a tangent, but like deviation. What's your favorite ice cream? I feel like we kind of talked about this, but we kind of haven't really deep dove it. Not that we're going to call this an IQ point, but let's talk ice cream.
It depends on my mood. And
you mean depends what part of your cycle you're at?
Yeah, how much testosterone I have in me. With a lot of testosterone, I need the chocolate. Without it, I need strawberries.
Is it day 10 or day 33?
Yeah. Is it first thing in the morning or is it late at night? I don't know. I really like malt ice cream, and sometimes I can find like a malt with like chocolate chips. And I prefer the small shaved chocolate chips as opposed to like huge chocolate chunks. But I remember there's a ice cream place in Leavenworth, Washington. It's if you've ever heard of it, it's for those of you listening, it's like a Christmas town. It's well known for having Christmas lights and stuff. But they have this small ice cream place. And one time, I can't remember what it was. It was like banana with chocolate chips. I want to say there was malt in it. I can't remember, but I do remember eating it that day and being like, this is the best fucking ice cream I've ever had. And then they never had it again. So
yeah, I don't think I've ever had a malt ice cream.
Oh, they're good.
Like malt as in like the vinegar?
So malt.
I've heard the term, but I honestly don't really know.
So it tastes kind of like when you make beer, the wort. Or if you get like dry malt extract, basically, Whoppers, it's the taste of the stuff in the middle.
I love
Yeah, right? Oh, god damn, I love it. And like you get some with like chocolate. Sometimes it's like stout malt. There's a place in West Seattle, I believe, that makes like a stout malt. And I drove over there once just to get it, and it was excellent. It's just a long drive and a lot of traffic, but oh, I love malt ice cream. How about you?
So, I guess my favorite ice cream is Ben and Jerry's Netflix and Chilled because it's
Mm.
like it's that salted caramel ice cream with all these like chunks like cookie dough, pretzels, brownie. It has everything that I love it. But recently, there's actually an ice cream parlor like really close to where I live,
Uh-huh.
and they do custards. So it's
Ooh.
actually not. It's like an ice cream custard, so it's a lot more eggy. It's very, very smooth and velvety, but it's a little heavier because
Yeah.
it's more egg based. Um, I recently their flavor of the week or the flavor of the day because they actually changed their flavor of the day like every day. It's pretty awesome, but pretty shitty at the same time because
Like
if you
I would
love
love that
something,
one flavor.
yeah, it's gonna be forever until it comes back.
Hmm.
But they actually had a chocolate chip, mint chocolate chip, which normally I hate mint chocolate chip. Growing
Yeah.
up, my brother loved it, and I just thought it was like the grossest thing in the world. But we decided to try it just because it was there and everything, and I was like, "Oh fuck, this is amazing!" I have a newfound appreciation for mint chocolate chip.
Everybody else has done it wrong, but you guys, you got it
Yeah,
right.
you did it.
How'd you do
I don't know
that?
what you did, but you did it.
I have to say, with Ben and Jerry's, in fact, there's a couple other ones too, but Irish cream ice cream, and I think Ben and Jerry's has one with like brownies in it. And then I know there's a local place in Washington that makes a Irish cream ice cream with it's like cookies and Irish cream, so it's like Oreos mixing with an Irish cream base. And I've always loved Irish cream ice cream, so that's top notch too.
Yeah,
In fact, that's a
God, I
flavor
love
that Ben
ice
and
cream.
Jerry's actually buried because Ben and Jerry's, if anybody knows this, they have like a graveyard of flavors that have died that they discontinued. And like if you go to Ben Jerry's headquarters, like you walk through this graveyard of dead flavors, and that was one that was dead, and then they like revived it. I don't know if it's still out there, but
Ooh, it's a
like
zombie.
it's a zombie ice cream, and that makes it that much better.
Yeah. God, I love ice cream so much. It's
Me
funny because
too.
like I grew up on like the really shitty ice cream because of course your parents are gonna buy you nice ice cream because you're a kid, you don't know any better. But it wasn't just the cardboard carton, it was the square. Do you remember those?
Yes,
That's
with the
like that's
cardboard,
like
and
the
then they leech in the cardboard taste a little bit. So like when you're eating it,
yeah.
like this tastes kind of like paper.
Yeah, the square rectangular one where you have to like peel it off and everything, and then you have to flap it back and everything like that. And I always liked ice cream; it's always good, but it was like never like amazing until like I met my wife who loves ice cream, and then she opened up the doors to me where it's like this is good ice cream, and I was like, oh
Rob, I
my,
can show you the world of ice
yeah.
cream.
And that's where I dropped the L word
To
to the ice cream.
the ice cream. I remember my parents every now and then would take us to Baskin Robbins, and I definitely could taste the difference between the cardboard cube of ice cream and Baskin Robbins. And Baskin
Yes,
Robbins
that's
isn't the
true.
best ice cream, but it's good. It's quality. I don't
Yeah.
hate on Baskin Robbins at all.
Yeah. We don't have a Baskin Robbins in our area. It's kind of
Uh,
weird.
so I
Yeah.
remember it
But they
used to
do
be
have
like
some like
only in malls, and like you had to get out of your car and walk into the mall to get it. And it was always kind of weird. Like I like having a store that I could walk into, and like around me there is a store that I can walk into. But if I have to get out and walk into a mall, I'm not going to go in there.
I remember growing up we went to Baskin Robbins and it wasn't in the mall. It was definitely God, it was either Renton or Seattle. And I remember it was on the corner. It was like on a corner little spot.
Uh-huh.
That's all I remember.
Do you know Baskin Robbins makes like they make ice cream cakes, but they make ice cream turkeys on Thanksgiving?
I've heard about that.
And I
Yeah.
got one a couple years ago for a Friendsgiving, and like it looks like a turkey. You know, they glaze it and make it kind of like a turkey, and they have like two ice cream cones for legs,
Is it a
and
different flavor or is it all the same flavor just with the dye?
it's all the same flavor. And like the outside is a I can't remember what it is, but it's coating and like kind of glazed over to make it that color. But you have a couple flavors you can choose from, and I don't know what we went with, like chocolate or vanilla or something, because it was, with that much ice cream, you got to get something everybody's going to eat, or you're going to have too much left over. But it was fun, and we ate most of it. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I know we've talked about Costco's vanilla is top-notch vanilla ice cream.
It really is.
Yeah.
My wife hates that. She doesn't hate it, but she doesn't like it just because it's a little thick. It's very dense, which I like it. I like about it because it's a very intense vanilla flavor.
Creamy vanilla, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. I like that.
Yeah.
I don't like the cardboard fluff.
we are not sponsored by Kirkland brand, but the Kirkland brand vanilla ice cream is solid.
How many more times do we have to say Kirkland before we're okay? Kirkland. Ice cream.
Kirkland ice cream. Sponsor us.
Sponsor us.
I shop at Costco enough.
Yeah, seriously.
All right. Anything else on ice cream? I'll know what to send you at the end of the week. A turkey. An ice cream turkey.
It melted in the mail, Rob. Oh, God damn it.
Damn it. Well, I'll pay for the insurance. Well, at this point of the show and of the series, like I said, I wasn't a fan of Will Wheaton based off what he did the first time you see him with the dead Meemaw card. But now I really didn't like him. I was like, oh, you broke up Penny and Leonard. What the hell?
Wheaton.
And now we're at the comic book store for the ending. And Stuart's on the phone, and he's talking to somebody, and he just says, I'm telling you, Match.com chicks are much looser than eHarmony. So it sounds like he's getting a little bit of action, so I don't know why he's so hung up on Penny then.
What the heart wants.
That's true. And then all of a sudden, he has to, the guys enter, and he's like, oh, I gotta call you back. I want to bet, and it's time to collect. And the guys enter dressed as female superheroes. Howard is Batgirl, Sheldon is Wonder Woman, Leonard is Supergirl, and Raj is Catwoman. And he is digging it and owning it because he feels empowered.
I get 1 point for being like Raj. I feel like I would own it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be proud of what I'm doing.
That's one thing. It's like, if you're going to do something, just lean into it.
Yeah.
All right, that's the episode.
That's the whole thing.
Yep. Fuck
in the
you,
vanity
Will
card.
So, the vanity card.
And I have to say,
Productions.
this was weird because I usually go to chucklorre.com. What is it? Chuck Lorre. I don't know. There's a website that houses them all, and this one's not on it. I had to go to Tumblr to find the actual thing so I could copy and paste it and look at it. So I didn't just pop up the screen. But for some reason, it wasn't on the typical website. If anybody knows why, who knows? But yeah,
I always just screenshot it at the end of the episode.
Well, that works too.
Yeah. Chuck Lorre's Productions number 284, 2010 census. And like always, I did not pre-read this, so this is going to be a surprise to me. 2010 census. 1. How many people were living or staying in this house, apartment, or mobile home on April 1st, 2010? Well, after a difficult divorce and several failed attempts at a meaningful relationship, I guess the answer is 1. One lonely, middle-aged guy. But I shouldn't get too down on myself. I mean, at least I'm trying. At least my intentions are good. Well, mostly good. I am guilty of what I call self-righteous self-centeredness. You know, that workaholic syndrome, which requires everyone to adapt to my very pressing needs, rather than being available to theirs. In fact, that actually might be the core of my problem. That or my compulsive desire to make women happy, which, no surprise, stems from a deep fear that unless I'm perfect, they'll leave me. Oh, and they sure let you know when they're when you're not perfect. They don't mince words or fail to live up to their expectations. You hear about it, or worse, you don't hear about it, and then have to deal with their subliminal rage that you're not healing their deep-seated daddy wound. But that's besides the point. Bottom line, one person lives here. There. You happy, United States Department of Commerce, Economics and Statistics Administration / U.S. Census Bureau? Anything else you want to know? 2. Were there any additional people staying here that you did not include in question 1? I already told you, I'm alone. What is with you people? Why do you keep taunting me? Haven't I suffered enough? And that's the vanity card.
He was in a sad place.
Yeah, is he married or okay? He's just had a difficult divorces. He's like not like he's in a very dark place.
I'm gonna look this up really quickly. What were his relationships? Chuck Lorre. He was married to actress and former Playboy playmate Karen Witter for 10 years before they divorced in July 2010. So he was, I think he was going through something.
What was her name again? Karen Winter?
Karen Witter. Witter. But he got remarried in 2018 to Ariel Mandelson, but they just divorced 2024.
So that's who he divorced, and then he married. So he's remarried now, you said?
He just divorced.
Again?
Yeah, like this year it says.
Ooh. Ouch.
That's rough. Married. Lorre filed for divorce in 2022. The divorce was finalized February 2024. Lorre will gain custody of the former couple's dog, Harvey, with Ariel being granted liberal visitation. Lorre was also ordered to pay the wellness influencer $5 million in their divorce settlement. A judge ordered that $1 million will be paid upon the execution of the ruling, and the remaining $4 million will be paid within 30 days after Ariel vacates Chuck's properties. So apparently Ariel Mandelson was a wellness influencer, but he was married. This is referring to the divorce in July 2010, which I'm guessing got finalized then. So he was going through it in April to Playboy playmate Karen Witter. That's a rough go.
All right. While you were talking about that, I counted the IQ points.
Okay.
And we had 5 IQ points.
Nice. That's a nice number.
It's a good number.
And I am at 94 points being not like Sheldon, 96 being like Sheldon. We went up 2 on both sides. So no, Sheldon's still a winner, but nothing too exciting on that front, but 2 good points.
Well, thanks again for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com and leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. And we'll see you next time when we talk Season 3, Episode 20, The Spaghetti Catalyst.
See you then.
Thanks for listening. This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl. Thanks for listening.
Testicular rabbit hole.